This video is going to go through the very basics of getting data into NVivo and creating subfolders for it. You'll see this is a blank project, there's no files in here, so it's ideal for me to start bringing in all of my data. You'll notice there is a data ribbon at the top of NVivo, and clicking on that is going to bring up all of the import options. But before I bring in any of my files, I want to think a little bit about how I'm going to structure my NVivo project. To recap the last video, your sources are stored in three main areas: internals, externals, and memos. Internals are the kind of files that NVivo understands, like Microsoft Word files, MP3 files, and PDFs. Externals enable you to create proxy references to material that NVivo does not understand, such as a printed book. And then finally, memos are just what you think they are. They are notes, observations, and a place for you to store any thoughts you have about your project. So within my internals, I'm going to create two folders, one for my literature and one for my interviews, and this is going to enable me to keep everything separate. To do that, all I need to do is right click and go to new folder, and it's going to bring up a dialog that I can use to name my folder. I'm going to repeat that process again and create one for my literature. You can see I've made a typo here, so to fix that all I need to do is right click, folder properties, and it's going to let me rename it. So now that I have my folders set up, I can start bringing some files into them. So if I wanted to bring in a PDF file and put it into my literature folder, under data and PDFs, it's going to bring up an explore dialog that I can use to find the file. And you'll see here it's in my PC and I can bring it in. I'm just going to click OK on this dialog and OK again, and you'll see it's brought that journal article in for me. Now this is in the correct folder, but I could change my mind and move it elsewhere by dragging and dropping. As it was originally in the correct folder, I'm going to just drag and drop to bring it back, and we can see it's there again. Now we don't just have to use the ribbon if we want to bring data in. If I want to bring in data, I can also right click in list view where I want the file to be, and then I can go to import, and you'll see it gives me the same options that we had at the top here. This time I'm going to import a document, and I'm going to find my Microsoft Word file that already has my interview transcript in it. Click open, and just as before I'm going to click OK past these dialogues. You'll notice they give us the option to rename the file if we want to and edit the attribute values. This will not show if you bring in multiple files, so this only comes up if you bring in one at a time. If you do want to go back to that dialog, all you need to do is right click on the file and near the bottom go to document properties, and you'll see it's back up here again. You can rename and adjust as you need to. If I want to open up anything that I've brought in, all I need to do is double click on it, and you'll see it's going to open in detailed view for me. NVivo will allow me to open up two files, three, as many as I want at once, and you'll see as soon as I start to do that, these tab. And once I've finished using them, reading them and coding them, I can close them and they disappear. The final way that I can bring a file in is by dragging and dropping. It's really important for you to be in the folder that you want the file to be stored in first. Once I've done that, I just need to bring in a Windows window and drag across. So to do that, I'm just going to minimize NVivo, open the My Data folder. Now that I've done that, it's going to appear down the bottom here, which means when I go back to NVivo, I can open that folder up, and then I can drag and drop. If I minimize this folder and go back into NVivo, you'll see it's an MP3 file that I'm bringing in this time, so it's loading a little bit longer. As soon as it's ready, exact same kind of dialog, and I'm just going to click OK on that. You'll notice when you open up an audio file, the same as before, it's going to open up in detailed view for me, but any form of media has this contextual ribbon across the top, and that's what's going to give us the options to play the audio, to pause it, and we've
Hi,
also got
so
the
just to
option
introduce
to
myself,
speed up playback here
here at this
or slow
university.
it down, and that's particularly useful when you're typing your transcription. This video showed the three main ways that we can bring data into NVivo. That's by dragging and dropping files in, right-clicking and importing, or by using the data ribbon at the top. You'll notice there's a whole host of different import options from a whole range of programs within NVivo. You'll see it's got options for me to bring in data from bibliographic management software such as EndNote, Mendeley, RefWorks and Zotero. That automates the import of any journal articles, books, or any other form of references that you have in those programs. Where they exist, it will also bring in the PDF files, with the exception of RefWorks. Import from Outlook enables you to bring data in from Outlook, so if you've been using emails, that's a really useful way for you to bring those in. And Evernote and OneNote are both note-taking programs, and with this import option you can bring in any notes that you've stored within them. This is really useful if you've got field observations as part of your research study. You'll see you've got an option to import a survey. You can do this as a Microsoft Excel file from most common formats of interview website, but there's also special plugins for SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics. For the University of Hull, stick with Excel file because this will enable you to bring your Bristol online survey data into NVivo if you are analysing a survey. Finally, you'll see there's an option here for NCapture. That's covered in detail in a different video. Whenever you open up one of these import options, so if I use EndNote for example, it will bring up a window for you to browse to that file just as before and enable you to open it up. There'll then be some special options for that particular source type.